that draw could have possibly even been better for StrifeCro at the end.
Yeah.
Like, turn 2, of course, he would have loved to play a minion, but the life tap, look, he used exact cards and exact mana. I mean, everything panned out for him perfectly after that life tap.
Yeah. That's a really great chunk from StrifeCro. I mean, some bold calls there. For going the Defender Vargas on turn 4, finding a better play in that situation, tapping on turn 2 when he did have a play to make to try and, expand this game. Really well played and finds exact lethal as a reward for doing that. So StrifeCro now just one game away from moving on to the winners match of Group B.
And I'll tell you what.
Rat now has to beat this mage 3 times in a row.
And with Azure Drake and Ice Block, you are just spot on. This is like one of the StrifeCro specials where he wants to try to grind the game out and establish massive control with just high value cards. And honestly, this may be the kind of matchup that Hunter is not looking for, but can thrive in at times.
Yeah.
He's got lots of single target removal cards to answer some of these bigger threats that StrifeCro is going to play. Look at Freezing Trap, Deadly Shot. The Kodo is really the only card that's not lining up very well right now. And when you see the Doomsayer, obviously now there is a target for the Kodo.
Nothing is going
Reno
right. It's Reno
Jackson. Oh my gosh. What a draw from StrifeCro, too. I mean, when you have Reno in your deck, it's the centerpiece of all your builds. So if he can stabilize against the Rat, Reno Jackson will almost single-handedly end the game after that.
Interesting.
Yeah. This is going to be a doozy. It's going to be tough. And the Rat just hasn't had things really go his way. Losing the Joust with the Fiery Bat, and not really having a solid play to move into this turn 3. And StrifeCro has got to be sitting pretty. I was sort of thinking, and I was like, wait a second. We've seen a lot of weird cards in this deck. Tech cards for days. There's got to be a Reno Jackson. And we'll see if there's any duplicates, but I don't think there would be. I mean, this type of deck...
Duplicates not available in the format, so...
No, duplicates of cards.
Oh, duplicates of... I gotcha.
Yeah.
Multiples.
Multiples, there you go.
Yeah. I was like, well, duplicate's not a card, TJ. You can't play that in standard.
I meant because Freeze Mage runs multiples, but a lot of times this more grindy version just doesn't need to. I mean, they just run value cards and lots of tech cards as well, like Harrison Jones, which we do see, which could be a big deal. But actually, this is going to be a pretty good opening for the Rat here now that the Freezing Trap is active, and he does have Houndmaster for the next turn.
Yeah, a little curious the coin Twilight Drake when StrifeCro sees the trap on board.
Interesting.
He knows there's got to be a turn 4 play. Just because trap passing on turn 3 is never a solid option.
Yeah, this is great looking for the Rat at this point. I mean, this went from potentially being miserable to suddenly being one of the best pan-outs for him, just having the Freezing Trap. Getting the 2-drop Arcane Shot, you weren't happy with that, but then StrifeCro just played Twilight Drake's such a weak play into Freezing Trap. And even going to be able to pick up more value here with the Houndmaster and the Quick Shot on top of this.
But one thing that this deck is great at from StrifeCro is pulling something out of nothing. And cards like Ethereal Conjurer and Reno Jackson are both sort of on that track. And the Rat's got a pretty good trade here with Houndmaster. Isolate that Twilight Drake once again, make it so StrifeCro's not going to get any value out of it. And start pushing his damage.
Curious if the Rat's going to fear AoE here. If he is, he'll be using his minions, but I can guarantee you, after seeing Twilight Drake and Ethereal Conjurer, this is definitely a spot where I'm gonna make them have AoE.
Yeah.
And Flamewaker even joins the build at this point. I mean, this is pretty solid Frost Nova turn, that's for sure. But it's gonna be met with Kodo.
Yeah. He might feel like he needs to develop the Ice Block, Frost Nova and Ice Block. That way he can set up Reno.
I think he's looking for a way to proc that Freezing Trap. He's got to find a way to proc the Freezing Trap, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he can delay long enough to try to threaten the Freezing Trap Reno, but he doesn't really have the utility in hand to stuff these minions at the moment. and make that a realistic possibility. I mean, ideally, he would love to get the Reno down, staring at the freezing trap.
Yeah, fair enough. And looks like that's what he's going to go for. And definitely going to be punished by this stampeding Kodo. Another quick shot, so more burn picked up, and they're actually just cruise controlling here. Just going to hero power, keep putting on this pressure, and this is why this deck feels like it's so strong against this Reno deck, because even if you use Reno, a lot of times when you use it, you're staring at a board that's just going to kill you next turn or 2 turns anyway. So very tough to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, and it's certainly concerned with Call of the Wild this turn. I mean, you look at the way the game's panned out, and he's got Call of the Wild, I'm just dead. I mean, that may be such something that StrifeCro ignores at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Just hope that the Rat hasn't drawn it.
Yeah. He's going to do his best to sort of clean up this board here. He's going to be able to Frostbolt and Arcane Blast on this Houndmaster, but for how long is he going to be able to just hold on and start cleaning out these minions? I mean, he might get to a point where he can just run the Rat out of resources, but it's still a long ways away, and still got to deal with this freezing trap. This Twilight Drake has been on the board since turn 3, and that's about the time that freezing trap's been up as well. So what do you do? It's so hard.
I think the game plan of just continuing to try to... I think his game plan at this point is for sure to try to isolate the freezing trap with Reno. But how much time is he going to have to do that? Just more damage too. And the Rat at this point's got to feel comfortable that StrifeCro does not have any AoE in the deck.
Yeah, or at least in his hand.
Yeah, I'm sorry, in his hand rather.
Well, this means we're going to have to see Reno, and I think the Rat's sort of thinking here, can I play out the huge Toad? Is it worth it? What am I up against? He's got to think in his head, at least, that this is a Reno deck, and if that's the case, he just needs to pace himself a little bit. Huge Toad might be a little bit too much onto the board in case there is AoE.
Yeah, but the thing about it is he's got 2 minions that survive the AoE as well. So I personally don't mind the huge Toad here. I mean, I don't think that the Rat's thinking Reno right now. That's what I think he's not thinking. And if he was thinking that, he would certainly play the huge Toad. There's a Flame Strike picked up too.
Just not that impactful right now.
I don't know. I mean, this is not too shabby.
Well, he can Reno this turn and ping. Flame Strike is not going to do anything this turn, but Reno plus ping one of these, like the Stranglethorn Tiger, down, and then just threaten the freezing trap on the Reno Jackson to force your opponent to make a trade.
Yeah, it's not making too much progress. Something else I'm looking at too is if he just Flame Strikes now, his Ice Block gets popped, but then he gets to go Reno to threaten the trap and then ping off the Stranglethorn Tiger afterwards, leave the Rat with 6 power of the stuff on the board. That full trades into Reno at that point. And then you're at 30, and you have potentially the board cleared. So there's 2 very different ways to go about this right now, and honestly, it's really hard to make the decision for. And I honestly, this was the last thing I looked at too, was the Sylvanas here instead. So now isolating the Sylvanas is a real issue. Like, this is something that the Rat needs to really consider. Oh my gosh, and that Call of the Wild actually is going to be massive against the. Against the post Flame Strike position that we're potentially looking at, or even like going into the Flame Strike. This is a ridiculous amount of damage now.
Even if you just Call the Wild now, it forces StrifeCro to Flame Strike, and then he can't Reno, so you just win anyway with Quick Shot and Hero Power.
Yeah, I like that as well, but he's gonna go with.
There's no rush. No rush.
Yeah. And honestly, with StrifeCro just having Harrison in hand right now, and with how heavy the Rat's deck still is, I mean, there's still 2 copies of Savannah Hyman here. There's another Call of the Wild. He's getting close to activating Quick Shot. It's going to be really hard for StrifeCro to pull out of this one. I mean, he has to Reno this turn, period.
Yeah. And even then, next turn, he Renos, he's staring at 10 on the board. Call of the Wild will represent another 9? Oh, sorry, 8. With Huffer plus 3 for more Orleoc, so that's 18. He's already going to be down to 12. I guess you sort of have to answer the... you have to worry about Flame Strike. You have to answer the Reno Jackson because you don't want that going into Flame Strike, and the trades are weird, so...
Oh my gosh, he even picks up Eagle Horn Bow. This could actually start to become a disaster for Brian, the Rat Quartade.
Yeah. Because Call of the Wild plays right into Flame Strike, especially if he puts that damage into face. And, I mean, I guess the Huffer could trade into Reno Jackson. Once again, isolate the Sylvanas and push some damage. But then...
I think I like this better. And I think this is better because he takes away the Reno activation here. He pushes a ton of damage. And even if the Eagle Horn Bow gets cracked by the Harrison here, it's still getting in 3 points of damage.
Yeah, you still got burned. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Rat's still fine here, even post Flame Strike. It's going to be a lot closer now, obviously. But StrifeCro's under the pressure of that hero power. Ice Block's popped, and Reno Jackson's gone.
Mm-hmm. And Kill Command picked up. Yeah, this is just going to be pretty much lethal over 3 turns. Unless StrifeCro has some other healing packed into this deck, which I'm sure he does, but it won't be substantial.
I don't know.
I mean, you probably just Kill Command this turn to set up for... Oh, no, okay.
If he draws a Beast next turn, he can just outright kill him. Frigid Snowbolt! That's a very weird choice.
Yeah.
We need something real important here. I mean, unless it's Alex Straza, I can't even imagine what the other healing would be.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you just have to dig here. Just Acolyte of Pain ping and try and find something. I mean, it depends on what's in his deck. I mean, StrifeCro's the one who knows the rest of the cards in the deck. If he doesn't really have an out, he might think he needs to Frigid Kobold to try and draw into more burn and use that additional spell damage, but I feel like he's in just too much trouble, and he's going to have to go for Acolyte of Pain ping. Oh, okay.
Snowball. Thinks he's got to end the game.
Yeah.
And
how's he going to do that? He needs a lot of burn, and
that's
going to do it.
Despite
a Reno in a giant Flame Strike.
And an Ice Block.
And an Ice Block.
The Rat just gets and walks away. He's like, oh my gosh. I mean, he's got to be feeling some heat after what just happened, too. Like, to know that this deck struggled this much versus the Reno Mage from StrifeCro, maybe feeling a little bit nervous about it. Kind of seeing all the tools he has. He's like, oh gosh, how do I answer the rest of these? I think the Shaman's going to perform well in this matchup. But the Warrior could really struggle. He saw Harrison. There's Ice Block in there. There's lots of stuff to 2-for-1. He's got to know that Polymorph's in this build at this point.
Yeah.
This is an uphill battle for sure.